Imagine you spend your career running toward things everyone else runs from. Fire, collapsed buildings, children who aren't breathing. Every shift you strap on gear, walk into smoke, and come out the other side. And then one day, not in a burning building, not on a call, you lose anyway. The Ruderman Family Foundation published a white paper in 2018 that should have made national headlines. It found that in the United States, firefighters are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. Not slightly more likely. In 2017, there were 103 confirmed firefighter suicides versus 93 line of duty deaths. And here's the number that should stop you cold. The Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance estimates that only about 40% of firefighter suicides are actually reported. If they're right, the real number in 2017 was closer to 257, nearly 3 times the line of duty toll. A fire department is 3 times more likely, in any given year, to lose someone to suicide than to a burning building. So today's question isn't really about firefighters. It's about what happens to any human being when they are trained to be invincible, and then forbidden from falling apart. Here's something that seems completely unrelated. For most of human history, the people we asked to face death on our behalf had elaborate rituals for dealing with it. Roman legionnaires went through formal purification ceremonies after returning from battle. Native American warriors had weeks of ceremonial re-entry into the village. Even medieval knights had confession and absolution built into the code before going to war. These weren't just religious traditions. They were, we now understand, early versions of what modern psychology calls trauma processing. They said, what you just witnessed is not normal. Your mind needs to mark this moment, to separate what happened out there from who you are in here. Now think about what happens when a firefighter finishes a bad call. A child who didn't make it, a family watching their home burn, a colleague who didn't come back out. They drive the rig back to the station, they clean the equipment, they eat dinner, and then, because this is the job, because this is what they signed up for, they do it again on the next shift. There is no ceremony, no ritual, no formal separation between the horror and the household. We don't have time or space to unpack our stressful days, one Houston Fire Department peer support coordinator put it. And when we go home, we don't know how to effectively communicate what we've seen. The warriors of the ancient world understood something modern fire service culture has spent decades pretending isn't true. No one, no matter how trained, how strong, how experienced, can carry that weight indefinitely without a place to set it down. Dr. Merida Grant, a trauma researcher at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, describes PTSD not as an emotional problem, but as a physical rewiring. Here's how it works in plain language. Your brain has an alarm system called the amygdala. When you perceive danger, it fires. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Heart rate spikes, muscles tighten. You're ready to act. Under normal circumstances, another part of your brain, the hippocampus, acts as a context detector. It takes the alarm signal and says, yes, this was scary, but it's over now. File this memory, let the body calm down. The prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain, then applies the brake. Emotions regulated, threat response switched off. Now imagine you run that system not once, not twice, but hundreds of times a year, for years. A 2016 study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that 20% of firefighters meet the full diagnostic criteria for PTSD at some point in their careers. For the general population, that number is 6.8%. But here's what most people don't know. The issue isn't just about the big calls, the mass casualties, the children, the line of duty deaths. Research consistently shows that it's the cumulative weight of ordinary trauma that breaks people down. Hundreds of calls, years of interrupted sleep, the 1,000 small moments of witnessing suffering. Under chronic stress, cortisol, your stress hormone, becomes toxic to brain tissue. It causes actual cell death in the hippocampus. Over time, the hippocampus literally shrinks. When that context detector weakens, the brain loses its ability to mark trauma as past. Every new alarm becomes as vivid, as urgent, as the worst call you ever ran. Meanwhile, the amygdala, that threat detector, grows more sensitive, more reactive, larger. The brain's brake system gets weaker, the accelerator gets stronger. And the firefighter who spent 20 years being told never to show fear, never to ask for help, never to admit weakness. That firefighter is now trapped inside a nervous system that won't stop firing. A 2024 National Wellness Survey found that approximately 40% of professional firefighters are facing clinically significant levels of anxiety or depression. And nearly half, in a Florida State University study of over 1,000 firefighters, had experienced suicidal thoughts at some point in their career. This isn't weakness. This is physics. This is what happens to any brain that is asked to hold too much for too long with nowhere to put it. Now I want to ask you something. You might not be a firefighter, but I wonder if any of this sounds familiar. Have you ever had a job or a role in your family or in your relationship where your entire purpose was to be the strong one, where people needed you to be steady, so you were steady, where falling apart felt like failure, where asking for help felt like letting everyone down? Because that's not a firefighter problem. That's a human problem. The fire service has just compressed it into its most extreme form. The culture that tells firefighters, don't talk about what you saw, don't admit what it cost you, keep going. That culture exists, in quieter versions, in hospitals, in schools, in homes, in offices all over the world. The same research that studies firefighters finds the same patterns in emergency room nurses, in combat veterans, in parents who grew up in unstable households and learned that their job was to be fine, so everyone else could be fine. The mechanism is the same: an overloaded nervous system, a culture of silence, and the slow, quiet accumulation of everything that was never allowed to be felt. Here's the part that troubles me most about the firefighter story. The traits that make them extraordinary at their jobs, the ability to stay calm in chaos, to suppress emotion, to act clearly, to push through exhaustion. Those same traits are exactly what makes them unable to save themselves. The problem-solving and being in charge attitude that is a strength of firefighters can sometimes become a barrier in seeking help, wrote researchers at the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. In other words, the armor becomes a cage. And if you've ever been good at being strong, really good at it, the person everyone else leans on, you might recognize that feeling. The quiet suspicion that if you put down the armor, even for a moment, everything will fall apart. The exhaustion that doesn't have a name because you were never supposed to get tired. The disconnect between the person you show the world and the person sitting alone at 3 in the morning. So let me reframe the question we started with. The question wasn't really, why are firefighters dying by suicide? The real question is, what happens to anyone who spends years performing invincibility in a culture that mistakes silence for strength? The answer, it turns out, is consistent. The human brain wasn't designed to absorb unlimited pain with no release valve. Not for firefighters, not for soldiers, not for the person who has been holding everything together for everyone else for the last decade. Here's what the research also shows, and this part doesn't get talked about enough. The firefighters who show the greatest resilience are not the ones who feel nothing. They're the ones who are allowed to feel something. Dr. Karen Jackson, a clinical psychologist who has spent 10 years working with firefighters, found that the most resilient responders are those who don't emotionally detach from their patients, who experience grief, empathy, and compassion, and then let it go. That cycle, feel it, process it, release it, is not weakness. That is, biologically, exactly what the nervous system is designed to do. The problem was never that firefighters were too sensitive. The problem was a culture that told them sensitivity was something to be ashamed of. And that culture is beginning to change. Fire departments across the country are hiring full-time psychologists. Peer support programs are expanding. The conversation, slowly, is becoming less shameful. That 4-year life expectancy after retirement in Chicago in 1989, by 2024, it had tripled, a direct result of investment in firefighter well-being. Change is possible. It just requires admitting that armor was never meant to be worn forever. There's a question underneath all of this that I keep coming back to. We spend enormous energy training people to run toward danger. How much energy do we spend teaching them, teaching any of us, how to come back? If something in this video landed for you, leave a comment. I read them. And if you know someone who has been carrying something heavy in silence for a long time, maybe send this to them. Not as advice, just as a reminder that they're not the first person to feel this way.